So today's session is just an extension to yesterday's session, which we had worked on in terms of graphing out the demand and supply and what is its relationship with the prices. So apart from that, today we'll be taking you off in terms of how all the factors are also playing a very crucial role in terms of determining the demand and supply. So with that, the entire session is based upon the Excel sheet today. I hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So yesterday we did with the relationship between the price and the demand going by the law. And the law very clearly, it is evident that it shows the law of demand, which clearly indicates that other factors remaining constant, whenever there is an increase in price, demand decreases. And whenever there is a decrease in price, demand increases. Vice versa. Along with that, the main condition is we are assuming that the other factors need to remain constant. So if the other factors are conditioned, then only this law of demand will prevail and it will hold good. Similarly, the other case, which is your law of supply, which clearly states that whenever price increases, supply has a tendency to increase. And whenever price decreases, supply has a tendency to decrease. So this is what is a condition of the law of supply is. Why is it so? Just imagine all of you are suppliers or all of you belong to the territory of sellers. So as a seller, what is the most important motivation behind selling a good or behind dealing with any market? What is the biggest motivation driving you to sell?
Profit.
Yes, of course, profit. So profit is the biggest motivation for any seller or any kind of entrepreneur who is driven and who is there in the market. So in that sense, if you want to earn more profit, it goes by the law of supply. And a seller can earn profit by quoting a high price if there is a gap between the amount of cost price and the selling price, then of course the level of profitability will be high. So that is why if the price increases, the seller is motivated because he is being carried away by the level of profit. And that is why from his point of view, the supply level increases. So that is what is the law, but not necessary that both the law always exist. These two law of demand and supply, it is not essential that they always hold good. These two are just the case one, which we have studied in our previous classes. Both case one of law of demand and supply. But in reality, both case one as well as the exception, which is case two, exist, right? So when yesterday I was asking you, what is the nature or what is the nature or the shape of the supply or the demand curve? So it is not necessary that your answer should be a demand curve is downward sloping or upward sloping. See, it all depends upon the kind of relationship which you have coined out between the price, demand, and supply. So that is what one needs to be very careful about when you are dealing with that. So here you see multiple curves. I am deleting it all. So let us go from fresh. So here you can see I have taken up the price. Let's take a product A whose price has been given, and quantity demand and quantity supply has also been given, right? So the product is X. The price varies from $10 to $50. The quantity demand for X varies from 300 to 100. I have gone by the law of demand. So that is how you can see when price has increased, the demand has fallen. For supply case, it varies from 100 to 300. And I've gone by the law of supply, which shows that as the price has increased, the quantity supplied has also increased. Okay, so this is a case, this is a scenario which we have taken in order to explain our conditions of graphical mechanism. Okay, so now let us select all our data. We'll go to insert, go to scatter plot, click on to smooth scatter. So that is how our graph is looking like. But as we have discussed yesterday, this is not the original graph. So there has to be a mismatch in the coordinates. So what we need to do, we need to set our data. So therefore I'm clearing it out. I'm going on to the add function. So first series name is the demand curve. The series X value here is the quantity demand because I'm going to plot it out the quantity demand. The series Y value is the price. So I click on to OK. So we see that our demand curve has been plotted as per as our data, which we have taken. Okay. Now, rather than clicking on to OK with the same chart, since you have taken the figure, you just need to click on to the add button. So again, you are adding. So we are next curve is the supply curve. So SS curve, series name. Series value, here we have to take the quantity supply value because you are dealing with the supply curve, right? So if you are taking the demand value, then your data entry might be very, very wrong. So this is what you have to be very careful. What are the entries which you are making? So here for a supply curve, the entries has to be from the quantity supply. So just click on to those values of quantity supply and the price, the Y coordinate, which is our price. So we are clicking on to the price. So now we just click on to our OK button. So this is how our graph looks like. Yeah. So now if you want to change the title, the axis title you want to plot, just click on to this. You'll get to data. So to plot the axis title. Are you getting it? You can see a plus button. So there is an axis title. You want to name your axis. So your x-axis is denoted by your quantity demand, which stands as QD, and quantity supply, which is standing as QS. So your x-axis, your quantity demand and quantity supply, and your y-axis is denoted by your price, which is expressed here in dollars. So this is how you have now named your x-axis and your y-axis. So with this, can anyone tell me that in this graph which we have drawn right now, what is that we have tried to interpret through this? Anything which you have tried to interpret through this?
At some level, demand is equal to supply.
Yes. At some level, demand is equal to supply. So what is that level? What is that level? Can you tell? So you can very much well see the graph. So what is the level at which demand is equal to supply?
200.
Equilibrium point.
Very good. Equilibrium. So, but what is the level? I'm talking about what is the level? The level here is
200.
fixation of
Nothing.
price and fixation of quantities. Can you see? This is the point of intersection between demand and supply. So the market price here is 30, the equilibrium price, and the equilibrium quantity is 200. But what does that mean? So this is a condition of what you are trying to interpret. We are trying to find out the market equilibrium. So market equilibrium is a condition where you find the demand and supply are equating. So in this sense, this is a happy state of affair for both the buyers and sellers. Why it is called as a happy state of affair? Because both the buyers as well as sellers, the price which they want to get, and the buyers which they want to pay, that is reasonably they are getting settled out at this particular point. So that is why it is considered as a happy state of affair for both the buyers and the sellers. And the market clears, you can either call it as market equilibrium, or you can call it as market clearing position, right? Or you can call it as the points where both the demand and supply are equal. So that is what in technical language we call it as a market equilibrium. But in reality, this is what is an ideal stage. Everybody loves to be ideal. But is it that everyone is ideal? Now in the class, you saw some kind of nuisances which is happening. So would you call it to be a following of idealism? No. So that is what we will always try, that the market should follow a ideal point or a ideal structure. But there are certain kind of scenarios where one can deviate from this equilibrium point. And why does it deviates? Because of certain multiple factors, right? So now let me take up a scenario. Anyone from, I just need one volunteer. Amisha, what was the recent thing which you bought right now? Anything which you have bought or purchased? Yeah, you can unmute yourself and tell me. I'm going to take you as a case study for the class. Yeah.
Kit laptop.
Yeah.
I bought a broadband.
You have not bought a kit laptop.
No,
Hello?
ma'am, I have brought a broadband.
Oh, someone response was okay. A broadband. Let us take the case of that. A broadband service. Be specific.
Airtel.
Airtel. Fine. So now, in order to have this service, this is a service, not so for this service, what are the factors which you looked into before deciding to purchase broadband of Airtel? What are the factors which triggered you in your mind before you have thought of buying broadband?
The
Airtel.
internet speed is fast here.
Internet speed. Okay, next.
Since my father has a Airtel connection, so he connected with his one, so means I can get extra benefits through it.
Okay, so the benefits, so we can call it as the fringes, the fringe benefits. Okay, anything else?
No, ma'am.
These are the only two factors. There
Yes,
are
ma'am. My father always recommend this only.
recommendation. Okay, but apart from that, anything which you would have looked into? What is the
No,
most
ma'am.
important criteria? Yeah, cost. Is
No,
it
ma'am.
not?
I got this free from my father's office.
Okay, you got this free, then that is a separate issue. Again, you will be an exception cases. You got this free, fine, good. But again, I will take up income as a pertinent issue, which will be taken up as a factor determining it. Again, there are Airtel. Suppose you would not have been provided free. There are other options of Airtel. There is Jio, there is BSNL, there is Vodafone, right? So in this case,
ma'am.
these are all what? These are your substitutes. of the broadband Airtel, right? So substitute
Yes,
is
ma'am.
another major factor affecting the demand for broadband. One more crucial element is also the government policy related to this. Suppose tomorrow government will ban Airtel because of some kind of scenario. So what will happen? You have to switch over to any of the other options because of the action which
Yes,
has
ma'am.
been taken by government, or government will impose a heavy tariff duty on Airtel, even if it is a private company. But don't misunderstand that private players are completely independent in their actions. So in that sense, government also plays a crucial role in determining the level of purchase. But apart from all these factors, these are, you can claim it as your other factors. Your speed can be also fluctuating depending upon a bad weather. Suppose today, even if you have got it free, but today the weather would have been really very bad and you would not have been connected for this class. So is it not a factor which has influenced your buying behavior?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this is again a factor. People are also affected by the advertisement. If certain kind of product or the resources are having or are being advertised by any brand endorsement like Amitabh Bachchan or your any kind of stardom character, then that pulls up the sales. So this is also a factor affecting demand. So
Yes, ma'am.
like that, there can be n number of factors which you can see which is affecting your level of demand for broadband Airtel. But apart from that, the major factor which affects is your price of the product itself. Clear? So apart from price, when you are saying it is not only price, but it is also the other factors which is affecting the level of demand. Then you have a role to see that either it is that our demand is affected by only price, or the demand is affected by some other factors. So in your case, it was more of the other factors which has affected the demand rather than price. For you, price was not a consideration because it was free. Are you
Yes,
getting
ma'am.
it? But for other, price might be a consideration. If you will see that Airtel is charging more with lesser amount of speed which is received, he or she might be switching over to any other platform like Jio, BSNL or Vodafone. So their substitutes play a very, very critical role in determining demand. So it is always one needs to be careful about who are the players which is affecting your demand. So all this thing, either it is price or it is the other factors, these are all called as the shifters or the drivers or the factors affecting the demand and supply. So in technical language, either you can call them as the shifters, the drivers, or the factors which has affected the level of demand. Okay. So with this analysis, I'm going to explain you two terms, two very important terms. One term is your movement and another is your shift. So rightly, I'm coming to these two fundamental phenomena: movement versus shift of the curves. Clear? So in this case, in this graph right now, what do you see? It will be related to a shift or a movement. This kind of scenario is a shift or a movement.
Shift.
Shift, ma'am.
Shift. Why do you say shift? Which is the factor which has affected the kind of change in demand?
Price.
It is price, only price. You can see the relationship between price and quantity demand, price and quantity supply. Other factors remaining constant. So here other players have not entered into the market. So here it is due to movement. You are only moving from this point to this point to this point to this point to this point. Shift, what does the meaning of shift means? Completely you will shift from this position to another position because of change in other factors. So when your other factors change, it is what you can claim it is to be shift. But when it is only due to change in price, it is only a movement. You are moving along the same curve. Similarly, in supply, you are moving along the same curve. In demand also, the blue line indicating demand curve, you are moving along the same curve. So this is what is known as movement along the curve. And here, the major factor which has affected the movement is price and only price. No other factor has been responsible for this movement. Okay. Now can you see a few black boxes over here? So the reason of I have done it. Let me show it. So these are certain values which have created because of the change in demand. So let me first of all come with QD dash. I will come to QD dash later on. So can you see QD dash? So let us imagine now in this scenario for product X, there are certain factors due to which has pushed down the demand for product X. So here in our case, we have taken product X as broadband Airtel. So as I stated, Amisha, that government will impose a high tariff duties on broadband Airtel. Or there will be a very extremely bad weather condition, which will be for a subsequent period of time, your net issues will be getting disrupted, even if you have got it free. Or the fringe benefits which you have been receiving, suddenly it gets snatched from you. So what will be the scenario? Tell me. Will the demand increase or decrease?
Decrease.
Decrease. And you will look for an other alternative to switch over, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So in that sense, demand will decrease. So if I'm saying demand decreases, so earlier my values were 300. So now I have declined it to 230, 250, 200, 200, 150, 150, 100, 150. Now with this decreased value, let me see where is that? I am shifting. Is my demand curve shifting or it is remaining the same? So in order to see that, again, what we'll do, just right click, select data, add. So now you are going to add what? Add the new DD curve, DD dash, name it as DD dash, which is the new or the change demand curve. Now here the X values will be the changed values of the demand. So select all these change values. These are your X values. Price has not changed. So price is the same, but still then demand has decreased. So price has remained the constant. Can you see? Demand has decreased. So, okay. So what do you notice? What do you notice? Earlier the demand was this blue line. Now, because of a change in other factors, see this is the other factors here, they are invisible. But still then this other factors has impacted your demand. Your price has not changed, but what has made you to change the demand? The other factors which we just explained. So what do you notice? The demand curve has shifted from its original position towards leftward or towards downward. This gray line, what is it indicating? It indicates the shift of the demand curve from the original line to this new line. So now what happens? The market equilibrium deviates. Now earlier the equilibrium price was 30. Now equilibrium price has come down to, can you see what is the equilibrium price now? It's between 20 to 30, which is 25. So what do you notice? Price changes because of such scenario. Now tomorrow, nobody will demand Airtel. Airtel company has to pull down its prices. Just remember the case which happened during the launch of Jio. When Jio was launched, each and every customer they had, because initially Jio was going for a free sales. And when it comes to free, the demand pulls up. So everyone had shifted from the existing bandwidth which they were using to Jio. As a result, the Jio has captured the entire market, and it captured the market so large that BSNL was badly affected. And because of that, the TRAI, that is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, it had to come up with a law that no more Jio can call for free calls. So did you think that Jio would have practiced the free policy for a long period of time? It was just a marketing gimmick. Jio was trying to capture the major segment of the population, which has affected, in fact, it has enhanced the sales of Jio. So that is how market prices changes, and the drivers of changing are not price, rather they are the other factors which affects the demand. So here you can pretty much see that the price no more here is 30, while the price has come down. So when you see that in the market, price subsequently changes, it does not remain the same. Why it does not remain the same? Because in case of the reality, we live in a world of dynamic factors. We believe in dynamism. We do not operate in a static model. Provided I would have operated in a static model, then you can say that yes, this 30 price would continue for a long period. But it might not happen always. There can be some kind of disturbance which is created in the market. That is why in the market, if you watch the market carefully, even if it is stock market or your currency market or your physical market or real estate market, whatever market, price keeps on moving. Price do not remain constant. And why price do not remain constant? Because the major players, the major factors, they make price to change its original position. And that is why this is a fundamental analysis which you need to understand in order to study any form of market. So that is what is a static mechanism is. But if we have to deal with a market which is completely based on VUCA mechanism. Have you heard about the term VUCA? Yeah,
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
VUCA is what is the world of dynamism, which stands for V stands for volatility, U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, and A stands for ambiguity. So the world now is facing a VUCA scenario. This COVID has again pushed the world in a VUCA scenario, isn't it? There is lot of volatility. Nothing is stable in the market. There is a high degree of uncertainty in the market. Things are very, very complex and ambiguous, full of confusion, because you don't know where the market is heading towards. So this is what is a change, is a dynamism. And in this practice of dynamism, what do you see? The demand and the supply scenario will also undergo a change. And if certain things exist, what will you notice? There will be a shift in the curve or not? In this case, now there has been a shift towards the leftward. It may happen that if things improvises, again, in our case, Airtel, if it comes back with a throwback policy, then you can see that it can increase the level of demand. So let us take the case of increased demand. You can see QD dash. So QD dash is QD double dash. So QD double dash is a scenario where you see that the quantity demand has increased comparatively to our original demand. Can you see the figures? In comparison to the original demand figures, QD double dash indicates that the demand has consistently increased. Now, with this figure, let us see that where is the market going and how is the price changing. So just again, right click, select data, add. See, once you create your data, only you have to add, nothing else you have to do. So add. So we had our DD curve, we had our DD dash curve. Now it is, let us name it as DD double dash, which is again the change demand. Then the series value X, select all these values, series values Y. A very important thing you have to notice here that the price is not changing. Even if price is not changing, it remains the same. So, okay, what do you notice? Now the demand curve where it has moved. Can you see the yellow line? All of you, can you see the yellow line? So now the
Yes,
demand
ma'am.
curve has
Yes, ma'am.
moved towards the right or upward. So again, this is a shift. And why this shift has happened? Has this happened because of change in price? Has this shift happened because of change in price? No. The shift has
No,
been
ma'am.
completely because of the other factors, which has in fact changed the demand curve from the original blue line to the yellow line. So yellow line indicates an increase in demand, and this gray line, it indicates a decrease in demand. Now you can play with these numbers. It's up to your thinking that how you are going to decide. So if I'm changing from then 240 to 250, you can see how the curves are changing. From 200 to 210. So what do you notice? This is what is a scenario, how the curve can change depending upon the values you are assigning. And the market now, what is the equilibrium? The equilibrium has changed or not now? The market equilibrium has changed or not? Earlier it was 30. Then because of a decrease, it went down, the price went down to 25. Now, because of some good position with Airtel, again you see the demand curve has shifted. So the new equilibrium is now what? In between?
35.
30, yes, 30 to 40, which is 35. So do you see that how price has changed from 30 to 25, then to 35? In the real market also, price changes. And how does it changes? It all depends upon this mechanism. So in reality, you have to be very, very careful about how is the market playing a very, very crucial role in terms of dealing with this scenario. Is it clear? So now the concept of shift versus movement. So when you are talking about movement along the demand curve or movement along the supply curve, the factor affecting it is only price. The movement is from this point to this point to this point to this point along the same line. But the shift is, it's a drastic change from the same line to another position. So it is completely pushing you out from the original position to a new position. So that is what is known as a shift in the curves. And now you can, here supply we have not changed, but if you want to change with your supply part, you can also work on that. So supply, if it changes, you can enter your data with the new supply. Are you getting it? So let me help. Can you help me out? What should be the value of the supply in this condition? This is our original data of supply. Now what should I give? Help me out. What should, according to you, I will move now. Yeah, tell me. Supply for this condition, if I want to make any sort of changes in supply, how much should I change? Can supply increase to a drastic amount for Airtel? See, this Airtel is, the entire company is one, but supply here refers to the franchisees which Airtel deal with. So do you think that if I increase the number of franchises of Airtel, it will affect demand? Tell me. Earlier there were 100 franchisees when the price was 10, 150 franchisees when the price was 20. Now tell me, should I change or should I continue with the same values? See, this is completely based on analysis. This is what is actual market is. Right now, what am I doing? Everything is based on the actual real-time market, how we are working with some hypothetical data. So let me take you some values. I'm changing a small deviation from 100 to 110, 150 to 160, 200 to 220, 250 to say 260, and 300 to 320. So I want to see that with these values, is my supply curve, which was originally positioned at this orange line, now what happens to it? So again, select data, add new supply series, that is SS dash curve, X values, select the supply value, the new supply value. Y value is the same because we have not changed the price. Unless and until you are finding out price is the crucial factor of determining demand, then you change it, otherwise not. So, okay. So now what do you see in your supply curve? Originally, the line was this orange line, isn't it? Now, where has the supply curve moved or shifted? Has the supply curve now moved or shifted?
Shifted.
Shifted.
It has shifted from the orange line to the blue line. Even if the degree of shift is very less in comparison to demand, can you see the gap in demand but the gap in supply? That means there has been a very, very little increase in supply. So that is how you can understand with the dealing with how the market equilibrium continuously goes on changing depending upon the values which is associated. So here we took about only 5 players, 5 data. But like that, in the entire market, if I look into the population of India, 100, that is one to the tune of 1.3 million. So with that population, we are incorporating the consumers, particularly the dependent consumers who have a say in their decision making. And the suppliers, the number of suppliers, those who are there in the market as per the different products. So don't think that the market equilibrium will be the same for all the products. Each and every product will have a different kind of classification with respect to the demand and supply. So that is how, with this particular case, I tried to explain you that how is demand and supply It's playing a very, very crucial role. And whenever there is a change in the other factors, you see that there is a noticeable shift in both the graphs. But if we are ignoring other factors, then there is only a movement in the curve. So that is what is the difference between shift and movement. Okay, you can take a snapshot of this for your reference, and after the class as such, I'm sharing the video. For your home tax, you can work with this data. Again, the work has been done. I'm deleting this. So with this is another case study for you. So with these values, you can draw the demand curve and supply curve. So next we have 10 minutes. Can we work on this? You have understood? So we can work with this data. Sorry, I'm